Solway, in these last two videos for lesson 16, Dido is going to finally die, and we're going to see how that transpires. Tum iun omnipotens longum miserata dolorem, difficiles quobitus irem demisit Olympo, quae lunctantanimam nexosque resolveret artus. Then omnipotent Juno, there are subjects, omnipotent Juno, subject, with a adjective here, third declension adjective, both nominative singular, feminine. Then all-powerful Juno, having pitied, this is a perfect deponent participle from miserior, so it's like a perfect passive participle, but you don't translate it passive, you translate it active because it's deponent. Having pitied. Then all-powerful Juno, having pitied, and there's some objects this participle takes, her longum dolorem, her long pain, or grief even. And, here's the and, difficiles quae, and her difficult passings, this is plural, poetic plural, because Dido's only going to pass once, pass away. Her difficult passings. Demisit, here's the verb, sent down, irem, that's the object of demisit, iris. And then you got Olympo, this ablative form, so it means ab Olympo, from Olympus, or you could say de Olympo, down from Olympus. Quae, who, and now this is a relative clause here. Quae, that's the subject of the relative clause, and it refers to Iris, that's the antecedent, who resolveret, who loosens. And since this is in the subjunctive here, we call this a relative clause of purpose. It has the same meaning as if this clause had a ut on it, if it was an ut clause. So check it out in Farr's appendix if you want a little more information on it. But it's one of the uses of the subjunctive, and it's an imperfect subjunctive here, imperfect active subjunctive from resolvo. You notice it has the infinitive, then plus the endings. That's how you form the imperfect subjunctive. Who might loosen, or if you want to say to loosen to get that purpose meaning in there, you can do that. Who would loosen, or to loosen, her luctantem animam, her struggling soul. Luctari, that's the word we use for wrestling, her soul that's wrestling. I think their soul is wrestling either to maybe stay in her body or perhaps to get out, but just can't do it yet because the body won't release it. We don't know exactly, but her soul is struggling. Also, she's endured all this grief, so it makes sense that her soul would be in anguish and struggling. So, who might loosen her struggling soul, and who might loosen her bound limbs? Nexos artus. Now this is a perfect passive participle, nexos, going with artus, modifying it, and her limbs are bound. Now she's not tied up or something on this pyre, but think of it like this, that the limbs are like her body. Loosen her limbs, bound, and then I would supply animai to her soul. So her soul is struggling within her, and then she has to also loosen the limbs, meaning her body. I think of this as metonymy somewhat for her physical body, bound to her soul. The Romans had this idea that death was a parting of soul and body, corporeal body, and the Greeks had this idea too, and that the soul and the body are separate. So that's what we are seeing here, that her soul is not able to leave her body yet until it has some help from the gods. Nam quia nec fato merita, nec morte peribat, sed miserante diem, subito quacensa furore, non dilli flavum proserpina vertice crinem, abstulerat stygioque caput damnaverat orco. For, because, and we have a neck, and let's find our main verb here, peribat. Let's do that first. For because she was perishing, neck, neither by fate, it wasn't her fated time to die, and that's ablative, neither by fate, neck, again, nor for a merita morte, for a deserved death. So you have two ablatives here, fato and then merita morte, that are going here. You could say because of, they could be ablatives of cause. For because she was neither dying because of fate, nor because of a merited death, a deserved death. She's taking her own life. Sed miserante diem, but miserable. Now that modifies Dido directly, because Dido is the subject of this sentence here. Let's remind ourselves that. And misera is the nominative singular. But we would probably in English translate it more like an adverb, miserably. But if you want to be perfectly literal, but Dido miserable, that's what Latin prefers often, ante diem, before her day, before the day of her death. And acensa, now that's also modifying Dido. It's a perfect passive participle. And having been inflamed, subito furore, by a sudden, ablative, furore, passion. So this passion for Aeneas that has led her to death, and so now she is dying because of this. Not dying because of this stuff, dying because of this. So Juno has pity on her, right up here. Non dilli flavum proserpina vertice crinem abstulerat. Not yet had, and this is pluperfect, had Proserpina, the subject. And remember, Proserpina is the queen of the underworld. Persephone, also called in Greek. Not yet had Proserpina abstulerat, taken, and you notice this is from a pharaoh, so it's to carry, and then ab, away, to carry away. Not yet had Proserpina taken away a flavum crinem, a blonde or yellow lock, a hair, lock of hair. Not yet had Proserpina taken away, and that's a blonde lock of hair, vertice, this is a vertice, from the, vertice is the height, meaning her head, from the head, illy, and this is a dative that's showing possession here, of that one, or to that one. You can show possession with the genitive, you can also show it with the dative. So, one more time, not yet had Proserpina taken away a blonde lock of hair from the height, or from the head, to that one. And that one refers to Dido. Stygioque caput damnaverat orco. And not yet had she damnaverat, had she condemned, also pluperfect, her caput, her head, meaning her whole body, but her head, stygio orco, to Stygian orcus. And I believe those are datives, dative of direction here, to Stygian orcus. Orcus is a name for a god of the underworld, and then by metonymy for the underworld itself. And Stygio refers to the river Styx, and so that is also associated with the underworld. Not yet had she condemned her head to Stygian Orcus.